So that brings us, I suppose, on to the chat of sort of levels in terms of, I think we all know there's a gap between the NPL and the A League in terms of standard and professionalism, but what would you say is the biggest difference? And from what you've seen, is there players in the NPL that would be capable of taking the step up?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing in Australia right now is that there's only 10 teams, and not to mention only 9 teams with the women's game. So I think there's just a clear lack of opportunity with young players coming through. But yeah, in saying that, like going back to what we just discussed about being committed, I think there are a lot of young players. I think our average age was 20 last year in the NPL. Also, I kind of pushed that up a little bit, being 37. But hey, Smelty's older than me, so he's pushed it up even more. But yeah, like for me, like when I go on the pitch and obviously I use this off the pitch, is my own values is about about commitment and compromise and communication. An element of surprise is something that you can give that no one else can give. But yeah, and you don't need to be Messi or Ronaldo to do those things. So every time that I do something on the pitch or off the pitch, I'll give 100%. Like obviously it's probably not humanly possible, but the closest you can get to doing that sprint 100%, or getting around that cone or doing that activity or drill at 100%, you're going to have success. And then obviously talking to the people around, being having communication. It's an easy thing to do, but a lot of people struggle with it. Off the pitch as well, about if they're having problems or just in general conversation on the pitch. And obviously, compromise is about the balance. It's about covering for each other. So if my centre back partner makes a mistake, then I'm going to cover for you. Or just say my wife can't pick up my kids, and I have to do it. It's a compromise. It's what relationships about. So, but I see the next generation, they struggle a little bit with those basic fundamentals of football. So I think we need to go back to that, and I think there needs to be more opportunity. But as I said, I think it's about for me growing up in Cairns, I had over 10 years at one junior club. Yeah. I didn't have NPL and semi-pro and this pathway that they're talking about. I made my own pathway through success and failure and different cities and countries. But yeah, I think it's just about being loyal and working hard and getting good people at, for example, for me it's in Gold Coast, the highest level there's either Gold Coast Knights or Gold Coast United. So I've chosen Gold Coast United, so I'm going to put all of my goodwill and that I can possibly do 100% commitment for that club. And I think we need to get back to that. So whether it be with Burleigh or Palm Beach, wherever you live or wherever your kids are coming through, is to do as much as you can for that club and create a culture at that club. So that's my aim, and I think we need to get back to those basic values and principles as a player and also as a coach and as administration, is to put as much energy as you can for that club, and slowly you'll get 2 good clubs in the Gold Coast, and slowly you'll get 26 good clubs in the Gold Coast, then slowly you'll get this amount of good clubs in Queensland, and then New South Wales is doing there, because you've got good people at the club, and players and coaches come and go, but the club remains strong, So yeah, that's my perspective about how we can move forward.
I think those finer details, I don't know about you, but I won't be missing out cone again in training.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Obviously I've played with for a couple of seasons now, and I think when a ex-pro comes into a semi-pro environment, you have that expectation that come game day they're going to be a step ahead and level above, which you have been week in, week out, and that's for sure, and the impact you've had has been huge. But I think what most people won't see is the small details, as Sam mentioned, about running around a cone instead of cutting across, doing the prehab every session, not just one every 3, cooling down properly regardless whether it's cold, it's raining. So I think at semi-pro there is a tendency to cut corners, and it might be 8:45 and it's cold. You just want to go home for dinner because you've been at work all day. But you're relentless with your sort of finer details and commitment, I guess, to the game, to the team, to the club, that you leave no stone unturned. Is that something that you've always been like, or have you picked up from different coaches, or it's something ingrained in you?
It's probably a part of anxiety, I guess. Yeah, I mean, attention to detail is very important, and I've found like the better players and coaches, as I said, like when you're getting involved in like the Socceroos, for example. Like I remember sitting down many times with a person like Vinny Grella, who he wasn't the most gifted and most talented player, but he ended up being one of the best Socceroos and performing so well at the world stage in the World Cup because of his mentality, his concentration, his attention to detail, his communication basics, and I remember him saying to me after one of the games, I think we'd lost against Ghana or something like that in England, and he kind of said, mate, you could play at the highest level, but you don't concentrate enough. And now that I'm older, I can understand why, because as a younger player, you're kind of here, there, and everywhere, and a bit of a headless chook. But then it's true. Like if you put your full attention and full 100% commitment to something, and it might be just an action. So I'm not worried about the guy in front of me doing a passing drill and where he's going. Like I'm worried about what I'm doing, how I'm controlling the ball, how I'm passing the ball, the way to pass, the direction. Then you start thinking, oh, what would he want? Then you build on that, and then slowly you add to your game. But yeah, I guess that's a big part of, as a player and as maybe a future coach, is that attention to detail and just not cutting corners. Even I talked to you about that Raul Blanco, one of my first coaches, and he made me do like one of extra, and I kind of do the same. Like whether I do like 40 sit-ups, I'll do 41 sit-ups just to be one extra. He used to make me run 1 meter past than anyone else. So, and I was crying at the time, like why do I have to do 1 meter? But then in the game, like I would be able to run maybe 1 more minute more than someone else in the 90th minute. So. But it's all about that attention to detail to mould you as a future professional. But yeah, you get a little bit OCD about it as well. Like that's the other side of thing about mental health and things like that. So you do have to be careful about not being too fixated on
Yeah, but the messages you put out, they're all very positive and relevant, because you see lots of coaches now, it's all about combinations and tactics and things that look good on a whiteboard when you're moving markers around, but in reality lots of the players that they're working with at grassroots level, MPL level, technically were not up to the standard to be able to execute and time in, time out, to play the ball to the right side of someone, to look after the ball under pressure, and they're the minor details that I think we don't we, Sam, that a miss from coaching sessions, isolated technical practices and things like that. And I think you coming in a couple of years ago and really focusing on passing it to the right side, the safe side, being on your toes, moving your feet, and these are messages that are few and far between.
I think we've gone away from that in our current curriculum. I know there's going to be a lot of changes within Australian football, but that's how it was. They call it like the principles of play, basic principles, and I think we'll probably go back to that about that technical work and the things that they were doing for a long time with that golden generation through the AIS or whatever it may be. But you kind of don't want to say the same thing, so I guess that everyone's saying, because it doesn't really doesn't resolve anything. No. It's about And when you are on the pitch around, Gold Coast United MPL players, or you get a chance to talk to other clubs and things like that, it's about doing what you can control, and that's what I enjoy. I really enjoy the technical aspect about making it easier for you, because it's all about creating more time on the ball in the game.
Yeah, you just said about enjoyment there, and that's one thing we're really conscious of within our coaching methods, regardless of whether we're doing tiny tots at 2 and 3 years old or up to around the 16s. We feel that kids need to have that passion within themselves to want to practice more, to want to watch the game, to go out and watch their local teams. And again, that's something we feel was lost. And is, you know, growing up in Australia, is that something you feel has changed? Or?
I think, you know, like it's being in that professional bubble for, you know, like, well, it's still 18 years, you know, as a semi-pro now, but you lose that sight of just having fun and playing free. And you know, I remember, you know, during the Christmas break, just went up and with my friend Zen and Carabella, and just he put out a text, you know, at his grounds there, and just put out a text, oh, Michael's here, we'll go for a kick. And we only won like 5 players, and but then, you know, the world got around, and then next thing we were doing 11 game. And it was unbelievable. It was the first time I've actually played like social football in seriously 18 years, and it felt so good. So we need to get back to that freedom about that street stuff that we all grew up playing with, you know, adding in technical stuff, but just allowing kids to enjoy and play free and have fun. Because like, mate, to be honest, like when I am playing on the pitch, you know, I just feel free, and all the pressures of your home and work, or, you know, real work, is it just gets lost. You know, and everyone, and that's about culture of a club, because, and that's what we want to try and build and grow on in you know, Gold Coast United. I'm sure with Soccer X as well, is building a good culture where they can feel so comfortable in that environment. It's just not drop off and pick up. It's about, I want to stay here, I want to do more, I want to, you know. So we got to get back to that way. Yeah,
so I think even during this COVID period, me and Sam reliving our youth a little bit. You know, we've been going out and pinging balls to each other, and shooting competitions, and when we were growing up, we used to recreate goals. And
what happened to that? You know?
Jumping for the goalpost and all that.
Yes, it used to. Obviously, like Alan Shearer, you still do a celebration now, don't you?
So
there's probably not enough of that.
Yeah, and you know, I remember, you know, even when I first moved to Sydney, I used to just drive around, because they used to live on the North Shore, and I used to just drive around North Sydney looking for a post with goals, with the goal net on it. And when I found one, it was like, oh, it was heaven, you know. And this was like as a 19-year-old, and I remember, you know, I used to step in dog poo, and you know, it used to be 6 o'clock at night and pitch dark, but you'd still be, you know, smashing the ball against the wall. And that's, you know, like growing up, I had 3 sisters, you know, who never really wanted to play football with me. So, and my dad was busy with his engineering and things like that. But all he built me was a brick wall in the backyard, and you know, it doesn't cost a lot of money. Maybe we need to get back to that, the European style, about those big walls and targets, and just, you know, rather than tearing down nets and stuff, just the basics, you know. So we need to get back to that.
That's it. And I think particularly in the Gold Coast where we are here, there's so much more to do for kids with technology. But you know, I'm not sure how we get back to kids just going out and playing or watching football more. But do you think that would help influence kids today?
Yeah, I went for a kick with Jay at Palm Beach. He was we're doing some accessible program with Gold Coast United, like with disability kids. But like he's a Palm Beach goalkeeper, and he we're just going for a kick at Palmy, and just, you know, and I was just talking to him about, like, because I've been to a few Palm Beach games, you know, against Surface, against Burleigh, and just I said to him, I can't wait to just go back on that hill and just watch people play football, and you know, even a couple of because there's a long break in the A League, and between when my family did live here, I used to do like pre-seasons with Philo at Burleigh, because I knew you worked the hardest, you know, because Smelty and I used to go there and just try and be ahead of the guys before we go into pre-season. But just going back to that like grassroots level, you know, conditioning, and that feeling of, you know, the local clubs and stuff, it's such a good feeling, you know. I think, as I said, like, I think it's like, parents ask me all the time, little Johnny's not part of Gold Coast United, or he's not part of Gold Coast Knights now. I'm like, where do you live? Palm Beach. Hit up ring up Palm Beach, get him signed up there,
Exactly.
get back to your local club and just get him enjoying football again. Don't worry about all this NPL and different things, and just associate with the club in your suburb. And I think that's how we'll build football strong in this country. You know?
Yeah. So whilst we're having a positive chat this morning, obviously there are negative parts of football. What would you say your biggest pet hates within football?
Yeah, it comes down to I think players just not looking after themselves. Like I think I've always prided myself, since I was 18, and with recovery and warming up but mainly about recovery, looking after your body, and I'll be the first one in the ice bath. Not that that's the be all and end all, but
And the last one out.
just it's not for everyone, but just looking after your body. I've seen so many talented players over the years that that haven't achieved their potential because they haven't looked after themselves, whether it be eating the right food or getting educated outside of football, or just doing the right things, getting into good habits. But one of the biggest to do with that is about players also looking after their gear. And the first thing when I talk to kids, or even I look at our team myself, the first thing I'm looking at is the boots. I look at every single player's boots. I look at, like, we're not all Maradona where you can play with your laces undone and whatever. But I look at who cleans their boots. I look at who looks after them, because it's the same as a tradie or whatever. If you don't look after your tools, mate, they're not going to look after you, like when you're playing. So it's one thing, I'm very lucky to be involved with Nike for such a long time. But mate, I make sure my boots are clean, and it's a ritual for me. Like before a game, like I just love, and after trainings, like make sure my boots are clean. And you guys would know, growing up in England, like it's part of the apprenticeship. So we need to get back to that. Like obviously, there's a bit of pressure from clubs not forcing kids to do that stuff, but that's one of the first things I look at, and it's one of my biggest hates when I see, kids that their parents buy them $300 shoes, which I could never afford. Like my parents growing up, I used to have to rip my boots, just within the 12-month warranty, send them back to Nike, Lotto or Adidas, and then I'd get a new pair of boots because it'd just be fitting with the warranty. But didn't have a lot of money for boots. But you got parents buying $300 boots. I look at the Nike Mercurials or whatever it may be, mate, they're dirty, they're not looking after it. That bothers me a lot, because and you're expected to go and perform, and not everyone gets boots every 6 weeks, But
Who's the culprits in our team? Name
well, I'd say definitely more than half. So
could be guilty of that on occasions.
But look, it's not the big. For me, it comes down to detail, and that
details that you.
And for me, I reckon me as a coach, I would know who's going to give 100% commitment or who's not, just by looking at their boots, and that's the first thing I look at.
The finer details are a big thing, aren't they? And I think it goes the saying, look good, feel good, play good. If you feel smart, if your boots are nice and clean, your kit's nice, I think you feel positive going onto the pitch. It's
funny, like I remember in my last year at West Sydney Wanderers in 2018, and Tony Popovich, he sat us down, and because, not to mention what he talked about with high sparks, like people missing and cutting corners and things like that, but he sat us down for half an hour talking about people not turning their, because obviously you get all the gear out, laid out in front of you, and then everyone just chucks it back in the wash. But he had half an hour talk on just people not turning their socks the right way around after you've used them. And it was so funny, like everyone was just like, whoa. But I agree, and I go through the same thing with my kids at home. I'm like, I go through the wash constantly, ballet, horse riding gear, just inside out, like just turn it around the right way. It's just about doing the right thing, So
I think that's the biggest thing my dad always used to say to me growing up, is do things properly, and basically one thing, moves into another. If you're sloppy off the field, you're sloppy on the field, and probably it was bad at that at times. I now understand why he kept on at me. So
No, it always brings a good culture, that's for sure.
So you touched on, you know, Nike boots and things. Is that your favourite brand? Is that your favourite style of boots?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always obsessed with boots. You know, I used to go in to sports stores and Sports Scene or Sports Power or Amart All Sports, Rebel Sport. You know, and it's probably a new role for me after. Hopefully, I can get a gig at one of those now that I've lost my job. But yeah, like I was just obsessed with sports equipment and gear, boots, and that's why I looked after them. But yeah, Nike was always there for me. When I first became pro, I was actually using Adidas and Lotto. Like Lotto was always one of my favourite brands. My favourite colour is green, and used to love the Stadios. I actually bought a pair overseas just to keep there. I got in trouble from my wife because there's no space used up. But once I was involved in the national teams, and you know they were sponsored by Nike, and they looked after me for well over 12 years, and looked after me with my family, and you know that's all I wanted honestly as a professional. Didn't mean my finance didn't really mean much when I was younger, and even now you can kind of see the happiest times to be playing is probably on the less money and just being around good environments. But it was more about the gear, just getting your number and your name. Like even now when I put the Gold Coast United jersey on, look at my name and the badge and just what it means to wear good equipment, and I always take a lot of pride. But yeah, like I'll probably it'd probably be a mix between Lotto and Nike, one of my favourite brands. But yeah, it's kind of inclined to the player that you like. At the time, I was big into like Serie A and stuff like that. They were all in Lotto, and Ronaldo used to wear like not like the Brazilian Ronaldo used to wear like R9s and stuff.
Yeah, they were quality then.
Yeah, so it's normally around that.
98 World Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What about you, Sam? Adidas?
Always been more of an Adidas man. I don't know why, but
I think it's an English thing, isn't it?
I think it might be. Yeah, it was Predator for me.
David Beckham.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, the
he was
everyone wanted to be
he was
best.
a big influence on him.
I remember I was talking about going down the parks in Sydney and stuff because I had those champagne before the 2002 the champagne Preds.
Manias.
And I remember my first session. I joked about it before, but I stepped in dog poo, and I was gutted. But to be honest, they performed for me because I remember even at the uni games and during that year I scored like 5 goals in the local league, but they worked well for me. So I just wiped off that poo. But yeah, it meant everything.
Definitely running around Predators on the old curtains like Beckham.
Highlights, so legend, wasn't it? Alright, so you've obviously not been in the professional game for a couple of years, and you started up a company called That's Football. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so it was something that I'd been thinking about for years, and it's a term that everyone says, whether it be AFL or rugby league, and you always hear that's footy or that's football. And the more I heard about it, I was kind of like, I need to do something with that because it means so much. It can mean good, bad, ugly, whatever. And yeah, back in 2018 when I was at West Sydney Wanderers and going through that transition about thinking, I can't continue to play because it's away from my family, and didn't have an opportunity to come back to the Brisbane Roar, and I had to make a call on my own career in that last season, and it was at the beginning of 2018 where I just trademarked the name and just started developing a mentoring company that helps people in transition into profession. So but mainly my mission is I call it help creating change, and to help people to be professional, create an overall well-being for people. And I really want to, it's going to be tough, but to change the perception that earning as much as you can and playing as long as you can is not the be all and end all. And I think all of us in business and whether it be football or work, we're all driven for that financial gain. And but as I said, like I have a little bit on where I've been happiest. Like obviously China was probably the highest income that I've ever earned, and but I look at my first contract at Marconi, and even now as a semi-pro, and I couldn't be happier because the other things around finance are being ticked, and whether it be families or friends, the club that you're involved with. So mainly it's to help people to transition into a profession, and it's not just football.
Yeah.
It's I want to talk to schools and clubs, and at corporate events, just to talk about mainly 6 aspects, which is about your own values, about goal setting, which we've talked about becoming a leader, leadership, learning from failure, mental health, which is a big part of the company and my brand, and also building resilience as well. So they're kind of the target areas.
I think it's really valuable, and probably a niche that hasn't been looked into very much by many, and probably ignored in lots of cases, because it is a tough time from certainly professional soccer players transitioning out, and that word mental health is really prominent, isn't it, within sport. So I think it's really valuable what you do in trying to put people in a positive mindset and on a pathway to show there is something beyond soccer or sport. And
transition is the hardest for everyone. Like, I've just gone through it myself, being made redundant. That was my first real role outside of professional football, and but I really wanted to test myself for my mentoring company, to get put out of my comfort zone, and it was working with elevators, and it was a big test, and I'm very thankful for John for that opportunity. But he's trying to protect his own business and his own growth, and everybody's been impacted during this time, and but transition is so hard because it's almost like that empty, cloudy feeling. I think everyone goes through it. People are moving in and out of jobs all the time. So I think, there's a big market to help people and companies to help them in that transition. And it's mainly off the field for now. But I've got such a big passion on the pitch, whether it be using my sports science background or my coaching badges, but they'll probably be involved with Gold Coast United in the future. But we're yet to tap in to the whole mental and psychology side. It's we're only a small percentage of what we know about the mind and brain and how it works, and just try and help people in the lessons that I've learned over the years.
I think you've got lots of experience to call upon, and I know certainly at 33, at the latter stage of my career, I'm still learning from you. So I think you'll go from strength to strength and really help lots of people out there.
Yeah, and that was the hardest thing for me, is because there was a really bad time during when I was at China, and I counted on my hand the number of days that I saw my family during that year, and then again at West Sydney Wanderers in that second year. So you're talking about 2 whole years away from your family, and 2 young girls. They're only 9 and 11, and there was just times where I was in China and just thinking, why am I here in this world? And I was just so down on myself, and just experiencing anxiety throughout my whole career, and that whole mental health aspect and getting that balance right is such a big passion of mine, and I'm very happy to talk about it, because it might help other kids or other adults or other workers that are going through the same thing, to try and get that balance. And again, it comes down to your purpose and doing what you want to do, valuing what you do every day, and as you said, learning from others around you and what you've learned from your experience so far. So, but that's the hardest thing for me right now, is because just trying to promote it on Instagram, because I know that what Instagram does to a lot of people out there these days, especially with social media and whatnot. But then I kind of deleted it all, and then I went back on it, because I was like, well, how do I give a positive message, because they're all on it. And so that's what I've been doing, just different stories from different people, and the identity is not really about myself, it's about the people, you know,
Yeah.
creating stories and so that they, it's relevant for their everyday life.
It's really, yeah, exactly. And yeah, we'll pop the link to your Instagram and your website beneath this advertisement so that people can check it out and see what it's all about in more detail.
It's just at That's Football MT, and you know my website's www.thatsfootball.com.au, so it's pretty easy. But I was pretty lucky to get that company name because I've been thinking about it for a long time, and there's a lot of messages within my own kind of branding and there's that I talk about in schools and clubs and I'm looking forward to getting it out there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So I'll finish with some quick fire questions if you don't mind.
No worries.
Favourite team?
My favourite team is Liverpool, but growing up in Cairns is huge in rugby league, but I'm also a passionate Brisbane Broncos supporter, which is not a good time at the moment, but we'll get there.
Okay. So Liverpool looks set to win the league if the season does carry on.
It's going to be very interesting. I don't know, it's probably very political too, you know, like because there's so much money tied into the Premier League, and but it's been a long time coming. You know, like I was lucky enough to play against Everton in the World Cup, in the UEFA Cup, and in that weekend I got to see Liverpool play in the Champions League against Inter Milan, and just watching Gerrard run the show, and they won 2-0, so that was pretty cool to go to Anfield.
Wasn't it? So, moving on, what's your favourite player of all time?
All time would be Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo. And as I said, like that's I used to buy the old R9s, and it was a shame that really injury, to both knees, and it kind of held him back a lot. But what he achieved and just how he played and free, and that that Brazilian samba style is just amazing. But in Australia it would have to be Frank Farina, I'd say, growing up. It just really inspired me to become professional.
Just going back to Ronaldo, because I know I read something sort of Mourinho recently saying that yes, Ronaldo and Messi talent-wise, but for actual hard work and through persistence and everything, they built their careers. But for pure, natural, out-and-out talent, Ronaldo is the best player he's ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he learned
the original Ronaldo.
I think he learned a lot from the players around him. You know, you look at like Dunga and Cafu and like Roberto Carlos and all those, that core of the Brazilian team. Like I remember that airport ad for Nike and stuff, where they were just like playing free and dribbling and juggling, and that's just how they played. They just played free, like street football, and but just and that street smart just comes from and we're in a middle class country, but in these countries where it's either poor or rich, to make it and for their family to be part of that, like that, to take that street, what they've learned from the street into those pro clubs is it'll be that's why they're at that level, so.
Definitely. What's the best player you've played with?
Played with would definitely have to be Mark Viduka. As I said during our chat, just the way he conducts himself, and just a real humble person, very jovial as well. I always loved a joke, but just such a big presence. Like he is naturally big, but just a true number 9. Like I love number 9s like that. Like and there was always you kind of mould your team around someone like that, can hold the ball up. But just technical, like Cruyff turns, and you could never let him try and get close to him because he'd just know where you are, and just his 360 vision. Just how he's a real humble family person as well, and I think he's doing. He runs a cafe in Croatia at the moment, and you can see he's a hard worker, and it's not like he needs to be box to box or anything, but he just did his job well. Like as a captain and as a leader, and I think that's a good point for all of us, is to just focus on what you're good at and what you bring to the team, and not worry about too much around you.
So that's best player played with. What about the best player you've played against?
Against would definitely have to be Recoba from Uruguay. Yeah, I was actually playing as a left back for the national team, and yeah, he was left-footed naturally. You know, true number 10, but just so silky, so street smart as well. Like just winning mentality, but just like he would, yeah, the way Uruguayans play, and they're kind of. They would look at you as a defender, and then anything you would try and do, like they would just have something to conquer that. It's like a chess match almost, and yeah, that's how I felt. I felt like I'd make this move to try and defend him, but then he'd just like skip past you, just a step ahead. Like these creative players like Recoba and those true number 10s, they just have so much time on the ball, and that's something that. That I always found hard to defend against, like with a player like that. But just I remember sitting back and watching him during that qualifying campaign, over in Uruguay, and then in Australia when we qualified for that World Cup. And when he got taken off, like it was just like when you're doing that, like it's a special player. So
well, he was some player, wasn't he? And what's the best coach you've played under?
Best coach, like I'd say the hardest coach was definitely Raul Blanco. But I owe a lot to Raul because he gave me my first opportunity. But yeah, like he would. I remember one time like I was tackling like Alex Bros back in the day, and I used to be like a bit of a killer, and you just get stuck in, and at training didn't matter, and then he actually sent me off. First time I've ever been sent off from training, like sent me off, and he told me, "Oh, you'll never play for Marconi again. You'll never play for." And I was crying because I was just got the opportunity, and then but then I went to him and apologised, all that, and then that weekend he came out and said, "Oh, this guy will be the next international." And just randomly, and then I was in the starting 11. It was always about that mentality.
You liked it secretly.
So I owe a lot to he was one of my favourite, like just old school mentality, and he was Argentinian himself, so had that South American flair. But yeah, I definitely owe it obviously to Graham Arnold, and he's learnt a lot in his own coaching career as well. So between those two, they were my favourite.
And last but not least, what's the best stadium you've played in?
I'd say like in Australia, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'd have to say Suncorp Stadium would be just supporting like the Brisbane Broncos obviously, and playing that first derby. I remember with Gold Coast United and Brisbane Roar, and we had over 20,000 there, and just seeing potential of Queensland, and back in '97, when the Strikers won that NSL against Sydney United, that's just to watch that game, and that was one of the first soccer jerseys that I bought, was that Brisbane Strikers Eurosport jersey, and Frank Farina was the player and coach. So yeah, I'd have to say it's all to do with that stadium as well, like and to play there. But in terms of Europe, I'd say it'd have to be Feyenoord. That was a pretty powerful, compact stadium, and it was like a dome. But that was in the UEFA Cup. We actually lost 3-1. So
who was that playing for?
That was for Wisła Krakow in Poland.
Okay.
So yeah, it was. But yeah, massive support base,
Was that intimidating?
Very intimidating because it was just so enclosed. Like it was huge, but just that round, and it kept similar to like the Wellington Phoenix Stadium, like that Cape Tin they call it, where it's just like where all the atmosphere gets inside. So yeah, the final was pretty cool.
Good memories. Yeah. It'd be nice to have a few more down at Coplitz watching.
Maybe one day we can build some sort of stadium around there.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? Even just have a few hundred there would be good for us. But brilliant. Thanks a lot for that, Thwaite. Really appreciate you coming in. And great information for the kids. We'll see you at training tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first training back, so hopefully can shed a few kilos off.
That's it, just a few cobwebs.
That's it, yeah.